Hello my icy knights, welcome back to another video and welcome back to another episode of Prehistoric Playground. And on today's episode we're going to be talking about Jurassic Park and what the movies got wrong. But before we get to that, I just want to say something really quick. I do not hate Jurassic Park. Believe it or not, even though this is the type of video that I'm going to be making, dissecting what exactly is wrong with it. So the first thing I'm going to be just talking about right now is I'm not going to talk about how the name of the series makes no sense whatsoever. But yes, I understand that Jurassic Park, Jurassic, is a period in time where dinosaurs were at their biggest. I understand that completely. But if you think about it, it makes absolutely no sense because considering the fact that it has dinosaurs from Triassic, Jurassic, and the Cretaceous period inside of a park. So it doesn't make sense to call it Cretaceous Park or Triassic Park. It would make more sense to call it Mesozoic Park, but that doesn't sound as good as Jurassic Park. So I'm not going to be talking about that like literally everybody does when they're like, oh, did you know that this actually doesn't make any sense? It's like, no, I'm not going to be doing that. That's stupid. But without further ado, let's get into talking about what exactly Jurassic Park got wrong. And I just want to point out that if you disagree with me or you want to bitch about the fact that, oh, dinosaurs didn't have feathers, you suck, like, okay, but go away because you're wrong. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get on to the video.
Alan.
So first things first, we're going to be talking about some dinosaurs that Jurassic Park did incredibly screw up. I do not have all of them. I do have 3 that I mainly want to talk about in this episode. And I guess we should start with everybody's favorite pack hunter, Velociraptor. First of all, Velociraptor mongoliensis. In the movie, it is described as a 6-foot-tall featherless monster with hyperintelligence and a resonating chamber thing that lets it communicate with each other, and broken wrists for hands. The real-life Velociraptor, in fact, was about 2 feet tall, 6 foot long. It had feathers covering the entire body, minus the face, arms, and ankles, down to the feet. It did not have hyperintelligence. In fact, it was probably about as clever as a rabbit. It did not have a resonating chamber like you see in Jurassic Park 3. And its hands were facing each other, like the way you would do if you were clapping your hands. But if you want a realistic depiction of Jurassic Park's velociraptors, look at Utah Raptor. They're about the same size, minus the feathers and a few other things. So, here you go. Also, velociraptors probably did not hunt in packs. Pack hunting is a very sophisticated thing that animals do, and it takes a lot of focus and a lot of planning. Wolves do it just fine, but probably what more likely would have happened is that they would have formed groups to take down larger animals, but they probably hunted solo. So that's another thing they got wrong. Next dinosaur we're going to be talking about on our list is Dilophosaurus. Dilophosaurus meaning two-crested lizard, which they do have the head crest for. But one thing I want to talk about is that Dilophosaurus in real life was not really tiny like it is in Jurassic Park. In Jurassic Park, it is described to be about the size of a large dog. In real life, it was probably about 5 feet tall and about 20 feet long. Also, its hands are still pronated downwards instead of facing each other like the clapping motion that I said earlier about the Raptors. It did not have the frill. It did not have that. But it also did not have spitting venom. But I have heard somewhere that it probably had a poisonous bite. The skull is also wrong. Real-life Dilophosaurus had a notch in the skull at the front of the mouth, whereas the snout for Dilophosaurus in Jurassic Park is really Velociraptor looking. Jurassic Park Velociraptor looking, I should say. And I can't actually say anything about feathers because, as far as I know, Dilophosaurus did not have feathers, or if it did, we haven't found any evidence to support the fact that it did. With the pterosaurs, I don't really remember anything about Jurassic World, and doing research, I haven't really found anything either that I could actually say was valid. I will say that with the Pteranodons in The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3, that, especially the ones in Jurassic Park 3, because you can see them more clearly, they had teeth. Pteranodon in real life didn't have teeth because its name literally means toothless wing. Also, Pteranodon could not pick you up with its feet and put you in the sky and then drop you just to catch you again. Its feet were not that strong. It could probably do it to a little tiny dinosaur, but it could not do it to a full-size human. Or just too heavy to do that to. Also, Pteranodon had these hair-like filaments called pinkofibers. I mentioned this in my Quetzalcoatlus episode. Every pterosaur had this. It was basically, think of hair, pretty much fur, like for mammals. Alright, now we can talk about everybody's favorite dinosaur, personally the most overrated dinosaur in the world, Tyrannosaurus Rex, or Rexy, depending on how you want to call her. First of all, T-Rex is featherless. We know by related species that T-Rex did possess some evidence of feathers by related genre, meaning related species, like Albertosaurus, Eutyrannus, and Gorosaurus. In the movie, they said that T-Rex is clocked in at 32 miles an hour for running speed. In real life, from what I've heard two things. I've heard 45 miles an hour, and I've also heard 12 miles an hour, which is pretty sad because that means that a human at a full sprint could outrun a T-Rex. Once again, the hands are pronated downward instead of facing each other, like all dinosaur hands were. And speaking with the don't move, if it can't see you if you don't move thing, Tyrannosaurus had excellent vision in real life. It had binocular vision, which, if you want to know what binocular vision is, it's the same vision that you have. It basically means you can scan a 3D environment. So Tyrannosaurus Rex had really good vision for that primitive of an animal. People also suggest that it was rather intelligent, instead of the big dumb brute that it's always portrayed as. How intelligent? I'm not sure, but we do know based on its brain case that it was very intelligent for a dinosaur. It also had very good sense of smell, so even if you were standing completely still, it would have still smelled you, and you still would have been its dinner.
And now, we can make a baby dinosaur.
Now I want to get into what I want to really talk about. The way the dinosaurs were described to be resurrected from the dead in the movie. They were, as the movie states, had their DNA extracted by mosquitoes encased in amber, then filled the genetic code with frogs. And when they filled the entire structure of the DNA, they could hatch a baby dinosaur. or as Mr. DNA calls it, a dinosaur. There is so many things wrong with this. For starters, DNA does not have a very long shelf life. It probably deteriorates within hundreds of thousands of years, as opposed to the millions, hundreds of millions of years that they get for some dinosaurs, like Dilophosaurus and Dimorphodon, and the late Jurassic Tyrannosaurus. Their DNA would have been so old that they would have had to fill other animals in the DNA structure for that to even remotely work. Which worked for Dilophosaurus, I suppose. But another problem is amber, for those who don't know, amber is basically fossilized tree sap. Amber is not a good preservant of DNA and could not have worked either. Also, the mosquito shown in the movie was a prehistoric mosquito that did not feed on blood. So it would have no dino DNA either. So what they're getting from the mosquito here is mosquito blood that for some reason glows. Now we're going to get into the toads. The toads. No. For one, dinosaurs are birds, or reptiles, depending on the technical sense of it. Frogs are amphibians. The common ancestor of both of them diverged millions of years before dinosaurs even evolved. So, if anything, if they did use frog DNA, and they used it to revive a velociraptor, they would have had frog-like features, if anything, instead of just pure reptilian things. Even in the behind-the-scenes stuff before Jurassic Park was even made, velociraptors had snake tongues. Snakes aren't amphibians; they're reptiles. If anything, they're more closely related to snakes than frogs, and they would have had frog-like skin, eyes, and stuff like that. So it makes absolutely no sense for the frog theory to work. But the only reason why they chose frogs, I believe, is for the plot convenience thing of changing sex. Changing gender from female to male. And there's also a problem with that. That wouldn't have mattered because changing sex in an environment of exclusively one gender is environmental stress. It's a case of that it happens on its own naturally. That if you have a group of animals that are exclusively male, then by evolutionary standards, then it would have to be more female. There would have to be females. That's how it works. So just having frog DNA for them to change sex doesn't make any sense either, and it's still inaccurate. And that is all I can think to cover when it talks about Jurassic Park. If you have any more inaccuracies that you want me to talk about, please comment down below, subscribe for more, and hope you guys enjoy this video. The next episode, we're going to be talking about the hybrids of Jurassic Park, and it's not what you think, I promise. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, stay frosty.